Hi, I'm in Dr. Holler's Edit 9200 class, and for this project 3, digging into professional development tools, I've decided to showcase the new rubric feature of Google Classroom. The goal of this assignment is to demonstrate the effectiveness of rubrics in a classroom setting. As I'm an educational specialist student, I'll focus on using Google Rubrics as a professional development tool to other teachers. Rubric basics. Rubrics are typically used by teachers to assess students' progress. However, rubrics can also be used by administrators to provide feedback to teachers. There's basically two types of rubrics that we'll be discussing in this presentation. Both of these can be utilized by the Google Rubrics feature. The first is holistic rubrics. These are one-dimensional with one criteria. They're easy to create and grade. However, they don't really assess where students are weak or strong. Analytic rubrics are two-dimensional, utilizing two or more criteria. They're a little bit more difficult to create, time-consuming, and a little bit more time-consuming to grade. However, they're going to showcase where students are weak or strong. Advantages of using rubrics. Rubrics orient the user towards a goal. They clarify learning goals. They design instructions that address our goals. And rubrics enhance self-assessment, self-regulation, and understanding of the criteria. Disadvantages of rubrics. Rubrics are not self-explanatory. They must be explained. And rubrics must be constructed carefully so that they're valid and fair. If not, grades will be skewed. Grading with Google Rubrics. One of the most unique features of Google Rubrics is how Google can tabulate a student's grade directly from the rubric. After the rubrics have been filled out by the teacher, Google totals the points from the criteria, and it then even converts these points into a percentage out of 100. Another feature of the Google Classroom rubrics is that you can leave comments. When a teacher returns a student's work, they can leave comments along with the grade. If a teacher exports a rubric to another teacher or group of teachers, they can leave them comments as well. Here's our first demonstration of a rubric and how to grade existing rubrics. And this one is going to be creating a new rubric.
I'm ready to create my rubric. I can do so by clicking on the rubric button. Here I have the option to create a new rubric, reuse one that I've used in the past, or even import one that I've built in a Google spreadsheet. For now, let's create a new one. Clicking on Create Rubric opens up the Rubric Builder, which is very quick and easy to use. You can choose whether or not you want to use points for scoring and how you want to order them. I'm going to leave those on for this example. And then all you need to do is begin building your criterion for your rubric. In this case, we're going to be assessing a lab report, and so the first requirement is that students provide an introduction for their lab report. I can add a description for this portion of the assignment if I'd like, or leave this blank. And now I can begin by adding my point value for each level, a title for the level, and then a brief description. I'm going to make this first one out of 4 points, and I'm going to call it Excellent. And then I'm going to paste in a description that I have in another document. Now I need to add my 3-point level, so I'm going to click on this plus button and go ahead and edit it. And now my 2-point and my 1-point. Once my first criterion is complete, I can click on the Add Criterion button to begin building my second. Please note you also have the opportunity.
Okay, so that was generating a new rubric in Google Classroom. The next demonstration video I have is how to add a rubric from Google Sheets. Now, but down here, the rubric icon is what we're really interested in. I'm going to click on rubric, and I already have a rubric made in Google Sheets. I'm going to click on import from Sheets, and I have this rubric right here. It's called Auto 3 Week 30. I'm going to click on this and add, and what that does, it attaches this to the Google Classroom assignment, and then I'm going to look at it, kind of inspect it. I have 4 criteria on this one. Criteria 1 is timeliness of the work turned in. Criterion 2 is quantity of the work turned in. Criterion 3 is quality of the work turned in, and criterion 4 is defining answers with bold type, underscoring, or a different font color. Makes it easier to grade. And this is explained to the students. So once I get all that checked, I'm going to click Save, and this attaches it to the assignment. And then if everything else looks good, I'm going to click Assign, and that's going to assign this. Okay, so that was how to add a rubric from Google Sheets into Google Classroom. Sharing rubrics with other teachers. As I mentioned before, since I'm an educational specialist student, I'm trying to focus on providing professional development to other teachers. Once rubrics have been exported to Google Sheets, they can then be edited, sent to other teachers, or be used for other classes. The options are open there. Here's another example of how to export rubrics from Google Sheets.
By your if you have your rubric open, okay, and so you can do that just by navigating to the assignment that that the rubric is attached to, and by clicking on that rubric there. Okay, so it brings it up for you. If you go to those 3 little dots, you have a couple of choices. You can edit the rubric, okay, you can delete it, which we probably don't want to do, but you can also export it to Sheets. Okay, so I'm going to click on Export to Sheets. And what that's going to do is it's going to take that information on your rubric, and it is going to create a Google Sheet file that can then be imported to Google Classroom as a rubric by your coworker. So the Google Sheet file that is created is saved to your Google Drive, and you can actually access it directly from your Google Drive. Okay. So you will notice here that here is our Google Sheet. Okay, and so if you're sharing it with a coworker, you can go to the share button. Okay, and what you can do is you can add a person to share it with. Okay, and so you can share it with your coworker, whoever might want to reuse that rubric.
Okay, so that was a little information on how to export rubrics out of Google Sheets, or exporting rubrics to Google Sheets. We're going to skip this file. This was a rubric for teacher use, And the last thing I have is my reference list. I have 6 references here, 3 on this list and 3 on this list. So that's the end of my presentation, and thank you very much.